you to talk about casting. In particular, you're talking about casting a non-actor who worked at a barber shop. How do you go about finding actors in Middle America or non-actors who will fit into your stories? And then once you get to a certain level, like you say that you have names attached, how do you go from finding people in Middle America and then finding people who may have names to them but who still fit and seem real in the world that you're creating?
It starts with the story and it starts with the characters, and you just have to use every possible avenue of getting your character and your cast breakdown out there. And there are millions of ways to do it. First, you got to go through the websites, LA Casting, Now Casting, 800 Casting, Actors Access and Breakdown Services are the two major ones out of LA. But then you need to go and find all the major casting agencies in all the major cities and submit your breakdown to them. I mean, it'd be great to be able to hire a casting director to do all this for you, but that costs money. So in this world, you just have to take the time to do the research, go to those websites, post all your casting breakdowns, get it to all the casting agencies, and then the submissions will start coming in. I mean, we had over 7,000 submissions, for my last feature. It's just about, you can get it out there, and then it's about holding the auditions and seeing, because we were talking about this before we even started, you never know who's going to walk in and blow you away. You've got this visual in your head, oh, this is how I see this character. Somebody walks in and just nails it, and you're like, that's not how I see that character anymore. So the avenues are there via the internet to get your casting notices out to anybody, and then they just start spreading, and then you literally have to sift through every submission. But casting is of the utmost importance.
Casting is my favorite part, but also to me the most tedious part, because it's, you're sitting there looking and like, I'll never find the actors for this film and all that. My last film, it depends on how you want to make your film. I mean, if you want traditional actors or not. My last film, we made a decision to cast everybody around Lafayette, Louisiana. And so we weren't going to go far and wide. It was just, this is what we're doing. We're going to do casting for 2 weekends, and then we're going to do our movie. And we had written this 15-page outline that was going to be our screenplay. We didn't write any dialogue or anything like that. And so we had a guy that was going to play our lead role. He was like a 28-year-old white guy that worked at Subway, and it was an old high school buddy of my co-writer, my partner. And the guy was like, no, I can't do that. I can't make a movie. I don't want to act in a movie. I have 3 kids, and I can't be in your movie. And we were really bummed, and we'd already done a little bit of casting. Like, well, what are we going to do? Well, we'll try to find somebody to replace him. And nobody was even remotely as interesting as him. That was in our paradigm of 28-year-old white guy. Well, what happened was the most interesting person that came in, who was more interesting than everybody by a long shot, was this middle-aged black guy. And so we rewrote the script, and he played the main character. And it was not something we would have ever thought of until he came into the room. And when we said, wait, what if he's Byron, the main character? And we were like, oh my God. And suddenly the movie turned into this completely other thing. And we rewrote parts, and then suddenly our movie changed. So casting to me is a lot of fun, and it's part of what we made is that we made casting and the shooting part of the writing process. So that was just a different kind of process altogether. We cast friends, we cast people from the auditions, and then we met people along the way. We wanted to cast this one musician, and so then his band came, and suddenly the guy that played another guitar in the band ended up being somebody in the movie. So that was our process, was just being totally open to what the world brought us. And then, what Thomas is doing is totally viable too, as if you want traditional actors, people who have backgrounds and training as actors. If you're going to go a non-actor route, I think a big part of the casting is casting people who can more or less be themselves, or take some quality of themselves. Like, you're casting the person and then all the qualities that they already possess anyway. So that's kind of how we did that film. So it's very collaborative if you work with non-actors, at least in my experience.
I hate casting, but I love actors, so it's, so one thing that I do is, like, over the years, I've sort of built an ensemble. I'm always like going to theater. My wife's an actress, so I'm always going to theater. I'm always finding like places where actors are, and I'm just watching actors. And so when it's time for me to cast, usually what I'm able to do is just pick up the phone and say, hey, I wrote this part either for you, or this is a part that you'd be perfect for. With Wolf, it was interesting because I needed a 16-year-old boy, and the content was, it's a tough, thing. And so for that, I had a casting director in Dallas and one in San Antonio. And we saw a lot of boys. And after a while, like again, it's like seeing all those actors, you just start to sort of blank out, because it's like, oh, I'm tired of watching people, because I just don't like that. And so for me, I think you should just find places where actors are and meet as many actors as you can. And I started to write things for people after I'd seen them. And that made the process much easier for me. Going back to the non-actor thing, which is really interesting, because a lot of the films that I love, they like City of God, they use a bunch of non-actors in that film. And it was interesting because what the director did is he went into the favelas and he started an acting school. And so he pulled in all of these boys who had lived that experience, and then he brought in this acting coach, and she taught these guys how to act. Same thing with Andrea Arnold, Wasp, Fish Tank, Red Road. She uses a bunch of non-actors, and she'll find people, like she'll be walking down the street and she'll see someone and like, hey, this person is interesting. Come in and read for me. And she has this one girl, I don't know if you've seen Fish Tank, but she's amazing. She's never done anything before, but she lived that experience, and Andrea Arnold was able to tap into her own experience and mold the film around her. And so that's another thing too. I love that too, when you can find somebody like the guy who's in Wolf. He's not necessarily a non-actor, but he's never really done anything. He has a desire to act. He studied acting, but he's never done. I think Wolf is his second audition, he told me, and he nails it. Because he it's not that he lived that experience, but he was able to tap into those different things, and I was able to really mold around him because he just had a desire to act. So there's many different ways you can go about it.
I've worked with actors a lot. I'm an actor as well, and so through theater and watching a lot of films, just on the indie film circuit, like, man, that guy's funny. I'm just kind of taking it in, and just like even coming in here, right, the barista back there, you're like, ooh, he'd be a great, let him play himself. He'd be a great festival programmer. You just, I don't know. I love observing. Yeah, constantly. Like I have this one woman that I teach with. She's probably in her 35th year. Has this drawl and just accent, and I mean, she's hilarious. In teacher meetings, she'll just bust out. I'm like, I'm putting her in the next movie. I mean, she's just got to be in it. So that's the way I've cast most of mine. They've been friends. And then this last film, I also trust my actors. Like, hey, I know someone. Look at the script. I'm like, yeah, help me out. I'd love to meet him. And so that's been the way it's worked for me.
You describe yourself, I noticed in the program, as an activist director.
I didn't describe myself.
They've labeled you. You're pigeonholed.
Okay, I thought maybe you had just done that yourself, and I was wondering if you had an adjective to add to director, or what would it be?
I would if I could describe it would be a character filmmaker. I don't believe in making movies where I think every movie I make has characters that you understand, or you at least know that kind of person. I want, when you watch, besides my zombie film, the three that I made after that are, I have to have honest characters that you actually believe in. I would say I'm a character filmmaker. It's more about the characters and their story than it is about special effects and cool 5-hour dolly shots. It's about the interaction between characters and their development.